Hello everybody, welcome to North Dakota Car Guy. If you're new to the channel, my name is Adrian, and in today's episode, I'm going to be showing you guys how to rebuild these brake calipers. We're going to go from this to this. So stay tuned. Alright, before you even start working on taking apart your brake caliper, we need to make sure that we have the proper tools to do it. So we've just got our basic wrench and socket, pliers, steel brushes. This is a snap ring pliers, hook. We've got brake cleaner. We've also got our impact. And I'm also going to be using a Dremel and some carbon steel brushes to help us with some of that rust repair. And then we're going to need a brake caliper tool for this brake job. Now, if you're using a front brake caliper, you may not need that tool, but we're going to be working on this rear brake caliper for the RX7 FC, and this has a twist out style. I already made the mistake once of pulling one out thinking it wasn't a twist style, but a common way to know is if there's this whole system back here to like twist, and it's designed for your handbrake. If you'd like to see a specific part of the video and you want to skip through, there's going to be timestamps all along the bottom of this video. And if you have any other questions that I don't cover in the video, be sure to leave it in the comment below and I'll answer to the best of my ability. Another thing that you're going to need to have when you're rebuilding this is obviously a brake rebuild kit. In your kit should come with a weather seal boot, your piston cover, along with the ring to keep it in place, your piston wiper ring, some bleeder screws, and the bleeder screw cap. Some kits may also include other kinds of weather boots such as these. Again, there's a timestamp somewhere, I'm assuming it'll be over here, of when we install all of these parts. But if you're like me, you may not have all the parts that you need. The original video was corrupted, so this is a voiceover. These are two parts that will work as partial replacements. On the left, I have a guide pin sleeve from a 1988 to 92 Mazda MX-6 that has a nearly OEM fit for the sleeve. On the right side, I have a third generation RX7 FD rear brake caliper piston. Now, as a disclaimer, this will not work with the original handbrake cable, and I have yet to see how well it holds up in the car, so be sure to check the description. I will add an update on the condition of the brake caliper and how it holds up after a few tests. Now with all of our stuff all planned out on how to rebuild this, now we need to figure out just how are we going to rebuild it? Where's the first step? Now, every brake rotor is going to be slightly different, but they all follow the same principle. We're going to have the main caliper, which is this main top piece here with the piston, and then we've got this secondary piece that holds our brake pads inside. And it's as simple enough as taking this bolt out here, and then in this model, you can just slide it off like that. And that's usually how it's supposed to go. The heart is gonna be this guy right here, the main caliper piece. We have to change out this piston, this weather boot, and this weather boot seal here. And we need to clean up all the mess that's gonna be inside of this, because this is jam locked. It's actually got a little bit of play, which is amazing actually. So first, let's get our accessories off. Let's get this brake line off and all of this jumbo off. Gee, it's gonna be like that right from the start. These are our copper crush washers. These will also have to be changed. You can reuse them, but it's a good idea to change them. Pry this guy around. There we go. There's your spring. Oh my gosh. That's one way to do it. And if not, just blast it with BP and heat it up and yeah. There you go. Wow, this still has the original boot on it. I'm kind of impressed actually. Alright, next we need to get this piston out. We're not able to get the thread thing down here out because we actually have to get the piston out first. So in this kit, we get all different kinds of sized pieces here. And so these pieces are gonna correlate with the two holes that are on here. Looks like we could do that with a 3. Let's go to a 4. Yep, a 4 sits nice and flush. How you get this flat piece on here is you gotta put it through this hole and then slide it down like so. And then this guy will fit up like that, and then we will, all right. So now I have to remember which way we go. Pretty sure it's gonna be this way. Mention is that as you are loosening this up, it's actually tightening the top. So every time you loosen it, or you pull it out, you'll actually have to loosen this guy right here. So if we loosen that, and then we can spin this guy up, you can see now this is already tight here. So we'll make this guy a bit loose. Twist it, and loosen this guy up. Cool, it's all the way out. Now we can take this, and there we go. Now you can see the corkscrew system that's in there and why you want to twist it. And then if we can peek in there, there is the spline. There we go, you can see it right there how it's got screws or splines, teeth, whatever you want to call them. Now we can start working on getting this inside stuff out. There we go. Ah, there. Now you can see it's popped up, and now we'll just work along it. And look at that. There is our boot that we can now throw. Whoa, holy grail. There we go. Alright. Now, you can see there's now this black ring right here. That is your piston washer ring. It's a lot like a piston ring for a conventional engine piston, like a piston. So, we're going to take our little hook and hook it out. Just like that. Ta-da! To look down inside of here, and you will see way down there where our ring pliers is going to come in handy. So we need to fish it way down in there and get that snap ring out. I got to be very careful when you do this because you can indeed bend these, so try to have extra on hand. It may also help too to turn it so that you can get it in sideways like this so it fits in the groove of your piston. Instead of trying to get it in like that, you can get it in that way. I'll use my extra long screwdriver to hopefully massage it that way. Alright, so I got one side of the ring. Woo! There we go. Ta-da! To just hopefully pop out. There we go. Check that out. That is all filthy. Looks like some expired peanut butter to me. Now this we have to keep. We cannot get replacements for these. That's very important. Now with that out, you can barely see way down in there. There is a little pellet in there that we need to grab. And that would be this guy. Alright, so off camera I took a screwdriver and just pried this up. And you will get this weather boot out. And then you can wiggle this guy, wiggle it, and try to pry it up. And then this should come out like that. And then you can see in here, there's a divot in here for that little pellet to go in that we took out earlier. That pellet needs to come out, because if the pellet is in there, it won't allow it to come out. So you gotta move it, and then you can pop it out, like so. Now with everything removed, there is one more thing, which is actually a bearing that sits right in here. There's actually this bearing that sits in here for the thing to twist. I'm not going to change that because, one, I don't have the part, and two, it's not going to be needed for my application, but all you would need to do is just take that hook thing and then just work on getting it pried out and press in a new one. Alright, next we're taking a look into our cylinder, and we can already see that there is a little bit of grime. This one actually isn't too bad. If we take this long needle pliers and we kind of glide it along, we can feel if there's any indentations or rust. It looks like that's all smooth. There is a little bit of rust forming, as we can see right in here. There we go, let me shine that light a little better. We can see right in here that there is a little bit of rust starting to form. And there's a bit of this weird ring right here, but if I glide this along just using my fingers, I can feel if there's any indentations, which there doesn't actually appear to be. This piston is actually fairly clean compared to the previous one that I had done, which I'll have a photo of. But regardless, I'm still going to clean this. So let's go ahead and get a brush and start working on this. Always remember when you're working with these bits to always wear eye protection. So let's get that on. There, not a lot of pressure. That's all you need. Now, if some of yours are really bad, it may require a little bit more work. But I'm going to go ahead, clean this ring and some other stuff, just to get this all nice and clean. Alright, once we've got everything nice and clean in there how we want, we need to go and spray some brake cleaner in all of the bleeder holes, including the main one here and in here, to make sure everything is crystal clean. Oh, look at that. Alright, and check how nice that all came out. Everything looks super good, no more rust. And so now that we're done with the cylinder, we need to work on all the other internal parts that are going to go into it. Now this piston's in fairly good condition still, as we can see. But I'm actually going to be using a different piston, so don't have to worry about that. I'm going to keep that for a different one. But we do need to clean up some of our other parts here, so we'll just repeat the same process. Alright, we don't want to forget our ring here. Alright, so something that you may be noticing on here, which is usually a common thing that happens to your brake pistons, is called pitting. That pitting is what you can see here, if it'll dang focus. It's famously called pitting, where you get all these little tiny holes into your part, and this usually is catastrophic. Well, these parts usually cannot be reused, but I will be reusing this since it's not going to become any use to me. However, if this happens to your piston or inside your cylinder, it's most likely going to be toast. Now, you could clean it and reuse it, but you may have binding problems where as it wants to come up and down, I'm talking about like your piston here, a lot of times you'll get these pits very similar in your piston, and as it wants to slide up and down, it'll like bind, and it'll have a hard time going in and out. So usually that's a sign to replacement. But thankfully for me, this isn't going to be any use to me, and we're just going to clean it and throw it back in. But that's a very good sign that this has seen some life. Looks really bad right there. Look at that. It's called pitting. Alright, so once everything is cleaned up, you should receive a bag of grease in your kit. Now, this grease is not supposed to go on the inside of the cylinder, like where your brake piston is going to be. This is going to be used for your weather seals, some of them, and for other greasing components. Alright, you can see that. So we're going to take this, and we're going to put it inside of this groove here where we're going to have our pellet installed. So you can get that in there. You can take some of the excess and spread it all around. Like so. We'll leave a bit of extra in there so that we can get our pellet in there when we install it. Grab our caliper here. Now you're going to want to have this face towards the inside so that you can install the pellet down into the cylinder. Yeah, this is going to be a pain in the butt. Rubber mallet, and there you go. You should not have to do that, but old parts. Alright, now if you look all the way down in there, you can see where we added that new grease. So we added that new grease. We are going to add our little pellet way down in there. See if I could just drop it. Nice. And then try to get it to stand straight up, because that'll make our next step a lot easier. Come on. There we go. Alright, so for the next step, we need to install our new O-ring onto our, I don't even know what you call this, to be honest. And to do that, you're going to want to coat it in whatever brake fluid your car is recommended for. We want to get this ring all lubed up in that. And you do have to wear gloves because this DOT stuff is toxic. You don't want to get it on your hands or breathe in the fumes for too long or any of that. And do a cap like that. And we will just kind of dab our fingers and stuff into the fluid. And then take your finger, and we're going to dab some on the top side of the ring. We actually don't want to add anything on the bottom because we're going to add some grease there. O-ring. Make sure it's the right size, like so. And then clean my fingers off here for the grease onto our bottom side. Not a whole lot, but just enough. There you go. And before I forget, we need to add our flat piece in here. This is a little retainer that's going to keep it from popping out, and also has these little stubs to prevent it from spinning. So let's get this guy installed and try to get it lined up on the first go. It'll make it a lot easier on yourself. Alright, now we'll make sure that our piece down in there is flat and will not move around. Make sure it's all pressed in. The next step is my least favorite part, And that is reinstalling the snap ring. Oh boy, this is... Okay, here we go. Nice. Got it. A good way to know if you got the snap ring in is if this surface right here, the plate that we put in, is basically flush with the ring, which is right here. And then here is the flat piece, the retainer piece. So that should be like flush up against each other. So there's absolutely no wiggle room to, like, if I can get my finger in there, there should be no way we can play with that like up and down. It should be pretty solid in there. Alright, so with all the internals in here installed, there's one more thing we have to install before the piston, and that is the wiper ring that sits right inside of here. Because up here's gonna be the weather seal. Down here, oh, I got like crud there. But down here is gonna be where the wiper ring sits. So we get most of the brake fluid to stay down here instead of coming up and leaking out of here. So same thing as before, make sure you get this all oiled up with DOT and then we can install it. Okay, put some on your finger and just get it all nice and lathered up. Be very be very courteous and just lather it all up. And then go ahead and wipe your finger in here too. Make sure you've got clean gloves. We want to make sure this is all caked up in brake fluid. There we go. Ah, it's falling out. This one can be kind of a bugger because it actually is a little bit bigger than it's supposed to be. Alright. Just like that. Once it's installed, make sure you don't have any weird twists in it or anything like it twisted while you forced it in. Should all be nice and straight. And now, with that done, we are now ready to install the actual piston. And like I said before in the beginning of the video, or the disclaimer, that this will not work with this OEM brake system because I'm using this as a dual handbrake caliper setup, right? So we don't need the handbrake, but if you are going to be doing this, be aware that this will not work with a conventional brake system such as this. So just be aware of that. But theoretically, it's all the same size, all the same principles. Fluid goes in, pushes the piston up. So should be pretty straightforward. And also add some brake fluid on this guy as well. Get it all covered in brake fluid, just like so. And then should be able to just pop this guy in. You may need to give it a little bit of encouragement. And then I'm not going to force it in all the way. We'll just get it started about there. And then we can add our weather seal here. Now we do need to dry some of this DOT just to help get that seal on and not make such a huge mess. Alright, so with a new pair of gloves, we can now put in our outside weather seal. And this looks kind of complicated, but I promise you it's a lot simpler than you would think. All you need to do is flip this inner ring around it like so. Alright, just like that. And then for this bottom, you can just kind of wiggle it in there. This one can be kind of a bugger. There you go. Alright, now let's go ahead and finish pushing our piston in all the way, which may need a little bit of encouragement. Oh, no, never mind, I'm getting it. I was going to say you could use this guy and just Alright, make sure that seal's in there all the way. Okay, now here comes the fun part. So, if I flip this light little piece up, there's actually going to be, see if I can get the camera at the best angle, there's actually going to be a little slot right in between here where there's a seal that goes up against the outside and then this first little flap. So that is where our ring is going to go. You're simply just going to start it like so, and then just kind of, actually I'm going to do it like, I'm trying to remember how I did it last time, on getting it all the way around. You can use a little screwdriver too to kind of help encourage it into its spot. And just like that, it is in its spot. And it is now nice and sealed. Check it out, guys. Just like that, we have installed our new piston. Easy peasy, right? Whew. I'm ready for bed. Alright, so we're getting really close to finishing this. The next step is going to be adding all of our final weather seals and valve bleeders. So once again, let's get this guy off. Now we can actually take this off and we can change it. Honestly, this doesn't even look bad, but we're going to change it anyway. I almost forgot this guy here. We need this guy for this weather seal here, and again, I'll have the part for this listed below because this is actually a correct part for this caliper, which is funny enough. So, first step is simply to just add some lube. We're gonna add some lube, just a little bit on the outside of this to help to get this to fit on. Sometimes too, you'll need to actually clean the rust out of these. I had to clean the rust on a different caliper just to get this bushing in. Looks like this one came out fairly easy. What? Then what we'll do is add a nice big glob of grease on the inside of here. Just kind of force it into that hole. We'll then try and squish it down so it's like right in here. And we'll add some grease onto our brand new pin here. Get it all lathered up. Alright, once you get that all greased up, we'll go ahead and just insert this guy right in. Sometimes these like to grab on there, so you can just kind of try and force it straight down into the hole, and it should go. Just like that. And there shouldn't be a whole lot of force. It should feel kind of snug, but not too snug where it's binding. Alright, so that's one seal done there. Now for this side, I do want to take a little bit more care of. I want to go ahead and clean inside of there. Brake cleaner on our cloth. Like so. I like to take a long screwdriver and kind of like put it in the cloth like that. And then just very carefully go down and spin it as you go down. Like so. Check that out. And we'll go ahead and take our grease once again. And it's probably a bit much. Just get it just like that. You don't need a whole lot, but the more the merrier, right? And then when we go to put our pin in here, it'll go ahead and we'll just spin it as we do that. We can add our little our new weather seal. There you go. Just like that. Now this is the shaft we're going to install inside of there, but as you can tell, this looks real rough. So we're going to hit this with some degreaser or brake cleaner and add some grease on there as well. Look how clean that is. Now sometimes there might be a little bit of rust forming on here. You could just take your Dremel and bit and just kind of clean lightly that rust away. And then once you've got the rust all cleared off and all the old grime, we will add a little bit of grease. Get that all coated. Go back to our brake caliper. Go ahead and we'll insert this and just give it a nice spin. You can already tell we're getting almost to the end point. Then after that, we can install our bleeder valves. You want to make sure that these go in nice. You want to do this by hand as well. You don't want to cross thread these. That would be very bad. This one's kind of having a hard time. Let's try this guy. Oh, look at that. That one's not even the right size. Oh, bruh, what the heck? I got sent the wrong size. Oh well. That's why you want to do this by hand, because you never know if the threads on these are different. Yeah, that should go in a lot farther than that. Let's try our old ones. It's a good idea to carry our old ones around just in case something like this happens. We can check the threads like so. It appears this is the right thread. They should fit nicely together. Same thing with this side. We'll go ahead and install this. Now we'll just very carefully screw this in and out. A little more. Back. This is to help with some of the rust. Oh, there you go. Nice and smooth. There should be no friction, really, when installing these. Just up until the end. Like so. We just want that finger tight. Add our little seal. Little cover. That one's good. Now with these guys, I think what I'll go ahead and do is take the one with less corrosion, which looks like it's going to be this guy. You don't want anything that's corroded. That's no good. And we'll just hit it with our little Dremel here. Right, just like that. You have a nice, clean, new bleeder valve. Well, I wouldn't say new, but it works. Alright, I'll be very careful when installing it. Rocking it back and forth like this helps kind of loosen up any rust that's in there. Look at that, now I can just do it by hand. Alright. Now that guy back in, and check it out! We're all done! Usually the stuff that they give you in the kit doesn't work for whatever the reason. It's not the right size. Except maybe this one? Maybe this one's the right size? I don't know, let's give it a try. I like to find a socket like this, and we will squish this gasket inside of it. Like so. Check that out, and then we'll get a light hammer to just kind of lightly tap it into its place. What the heck? Look at that, it actually fit. Who would have thought? Look at that, it fit. I'm like so happy about that actually. None of the other ones would fit on my other caliper. Wow, look at that! Hurrah! Alright, once all your weather seals and everything are done, we can go ahead and install our other piece by sliding the back pin in. And then taking our front bolt, slide that into position. And then once that guy's in, and you've got your mainline feed bolt here, which you'll need 2 copper washers for, copper crush washers that is, and your line. Once you're finished with that, you're done. You've rebuilt your whole brake caliper, piston and all. Once you're all done, this can go ahead and be reinstalled into the car. But there's one more thing I want to do to this. Paint. And the first step to painting our calipers is we need to get all this contaminants, rust, everything off the brake pad so we have a nice clean surface for our paint to adhere to. So the first step is to disassemble all of this. Alright, now that we got our two pieces separated, now we get to mask off all the areas that we don't want painted. We don't want to paint any of our bushings here and the face and any of these holes in here. So I really like to use electric tape. It works really well and it stays in its shape, nice and thick. I need to take my glove off, that's annoying. Want to make sure all the holes and everything are all covered up as well. You don't want anything getting in our sleeves. Next we need to fill our holes, and a really easy way to do that is just take some paper towel, bunch it up, and then shove it in the hole. You don't want to shove it in too much because then you won't be able to get it out, but just like that. Just like that is perfect. And then we'll do the same for these two. And just like that, you are now able to paint everywhere, even on the inside here. Alright, now this is good to go too, but we still need to clean all the corrosive stuff on here. But now that everything is nice and sealed, we don't have to worry about damaging anything. So, simple way to start with that is by using good old wire brush, or we can use our Dremel bits from earlier, these little wire bristles, to kind of get in the tough spots. So, but this will work really well as well, along with some brake cleaner. This will also help. Just try not to spray this on any of your parts, because this stuff will eat away any type of tape that you put on here and it becomes a big mess. Alright, so once you're all done brushing as your heart's content, next we need to make sure everything's clean. So you've got some brake cleaner here, and just kind of go along with that. And then make sure to wipe as much of it off as you can. And use a clean wipe every time you spray. Like, see, look at that. Look, all that stuff we just got off. That stuff there is what the paint would have liked to stick on. But we want the paint to stick to the metal as much as possible. To help the actual color of the paint stick onto the caliper, we need to add a primer, and you need to make sure that your can says that it is able to withstand heat up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. This is very important because your brakes are going to get hot, and if your paint is not able to handle high heat, it's just going to flake and peel off right away. So we're going to add 3 coats of primer and roughly 3 to 4 coats of red. Now this step's going to be very, very important to determine on how all of this is going to look, and if you've done... So now that we've got our paint figured out, let's go ahead and paint the calipers. Another thing I like to do is to wrap the zip tie around a hole that we don't really have to worry about how the paint's gonna look. We'll add a second one so that we can hold it in the air like this and spray paint it at various angles so that we can get all areas painted so it's not blotchy and bad. A few things to note as well that I have to apologize for the video is that I've run out of daylight. And when you paint, you want it to be daylight because it's going to make this process go a lot faster and a lot, like, the paint's going to spread a lot more even across. But unfortunately, I live in North Dakota, and with that said, our temperature never wants to cooperate with us. Ever. So I have to make do. But for you guys, you typically want to do this when it's about 50, 60 degrees or more, and with the relative humidity being like lower. So you don't want it to be like in the high 50s, anything from like 60 up. And most times your cans will actually tell you on the back as well with all the details. So in my current condition, it's about 50, 40 degrees and it's dropping, which means it's gonna take longer to dry. And it's also wet outside. So if it was the summer, as the temperature cools, the humidity goes up, which makes our paint look awful as well. So, but if you're just doing it as a small time gig, like me, and you want your drift car to not look totally bad, this will be perfectly fine. With that out of the way, let's actually get into painting these. So with our first few coats, we're going to be using primer. Now I'm going to show you at this flat surface so you get a good idea of the 3 different layers we're going to do. We're going to do a very, very light first coat, a light second coat, and then a third wetter coat. Make sure you shake up your can all nice and good. Oh my word. So when you're also painting as well, you want to go from all the way to here, all the way across. So start from past, go across, and then keep going. That'll give you a nice even coat. Just like that. Even that is slightly too much. Now what you're gonna notice is it looks really blotchy. There's areas that are more and less. Don't worry about that because we got 2 more layers to do. Just like that. All right, we're gonna let that sit and dry for about 10 minutes and then we're gonna do our second coat. Just like that. Alright, another 10 minutes later, and we're ready for our final coat. Now this one's going to be a little bit wetter, and depending on how you did your other coats or the temperature, you might want to do 1 or 2 more coats before doing a wet coat. But I'm going to go ahead and just show you right off the bat what a wet coat looks like. I'm going to go... So you can see already how much wetter this looks. It kind of has this glossy look to it. You don't want to add too much paint or you might cause drips. And don't breathe in those fumes either. I should be wearing a respirator right now. Alright, so now with this wet coat, I'm going to go ahead and let it sit for 15 minutes. You don't want it, you want it to be kind of tacky, but you don't want to touch it because when it's tacky, you'll leave fingerprints and all kinds of stuff. So we're going to let that sit for about 15, 20 minutes, give or take. It's probably going to take a little bit longer since it's getting colder outside. Once that's all done, kind of not curing, but just getting tacky, we'll add our first coat of base. Alright, so just like with our primer, we're going to do a very light coat of our red base. Make sure you've got paint coming out here. And then we will go ahead and start with a light coat. You want to make sure this is light. The train would quit interrupting me. Just like that. It's going to look blotchy. Make it look like you just ran over somebody because you ran a Mustang. Here. Just like that. On to 3. Alright, and just like that, that's coat 3. You can see as we add more coats, everything starts to become more uniform over time. And that's when our wet coat will really shine, and all these little coats that we do add strength to the paint. But probably not when it's this cold out, because now it's currently 9 o'clock and I can see my breath. And this one is gonna be a wet coat. So we're gonna try and cover everything in a nice even layer. Try and touch up any little areas you might have missed. That. Oil on here? Alright, so that's gonna be my final coat of paint. That is the wet coat. Now, because it's so cold outside, you can really see my breath now. But it's so cold now, it's probably like getting close to 35, 40 degrees. And so the paint is actually like collapsing, it's wanting to shrink. So some of the primer is still coming up, and that's just my fault for, you know, living in North Dakota. Did not think I had that much overspray. Alright, and after letting our brakes cure for a day, it's finally time to assemble it all back together. First, we need to take all of our tape off, and not the bushing. Don't forget to add a little bit of grease too once you're all done with this, just to kind of help whatever you may have taken off from earlier. Alright, don't forget to go ahead and grab yourself a new copper crush washer. Add that on there. And we'll install that, and that'll go on to when we add our new brake line. Don't forget our bleeder screws. And once you're all done with that, congratulations, you've finished your brake caliper, and I've already went ahead and done a second one. Just think about how we went from that super rusty seized brake caliper, and now they're looking straight fresh from the factory. Almost from the factory. This one I actually did earlier in a much better temperature environment. You can see how everything is super nice and even. When we go over to here, there's actually a little bit of blotches and little areas you can actually see through, so you can still see the primer. In areas it's not totally covered in red, but from a distance you're not going to notice anything like that. So, but you could definitely tell on here how everything's a lot more even, and it looks a lot better versus the one that we did in the cold. So that's a little tip for you guys. Temperature does help a lot. Thank you guys so much for watching. Always appreciate it. I hope this video helps you. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. And stay tuned to next time where we install this guy into the car. Stay tuned.